Where is her?
Mr. Akers?
Oh, she's waiting for the.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Akers?
Good evening.
Hey, all right, great. Okay, so you're here, and we're gonna put you in the middle of the table, so everybody's here.
Great.
Who's that?
This is Mr. Akers. Dave Akers.
Hello, Mr. Akers.
Good evening. Good evening. I appreciate everyone's tolerance with my calling in this evening. I didn't want to miss this meeting. There's some items that were definitely of interest, and also just for the remaining officer positions that we're going to be talking about. Just a few things I didn't want to miss, so I asked for permission to attend by phone.
Great, thank you.
So, if you let me know when we're ready to begin, Mr. Chairman, and I have the attendance roll call that I can begin with.
All right. Being that our current chairman and vice chair and secretary are not here, they've asked if I could go ahead and start the meeting. So I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. My name is Jeff Puig, representing Councilman Dr. Martinez, District 6. So go ahead and call the meeting to order. Do we have a roll call?
I will proceed with roll call. This is Dave Akers, secretary.
Okay.
So we'll start with Selena Costabella.
Present.
Thank you. Adrian Dominguez wrote in that he would not be attending.
Correct.
Okay. Rodolfo Guajardo.
Present.
Thank you. Armando Garza.
Present.
Thank you. Joe Madron. Absent. Jeffrey Quigg.
Present.
Thank you. Do I include myself present or do I not?
Only by phone, yes, but you can't vote at any of the decisions, but you can listen in.
Okay. Felix Canales.
So
Present.
Thank you. Rafael Tawil.
Present.
Thank you. So, Mr. Prigg, we do have quorum this evening, all present with the exception of 2 members absent and 1 by phone.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and thank you for being on the phone with us, David. Or Dave. What I'd like to do is go into item number 2, the general citizen communications comments. Is there anybody wishing to speak at today's meeting? Anybody fill out any cards?
No.
No, we don't have any?
No, we don't.
Okay, then let's go ahead and move forward with the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of Wednesday, April the 10th in front of us. If I can have a motion, the only comment that I have is that I was present to add that to the minutes.
Okay.
I'll give you all just a minute to look over those, and then if I can have a motion. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Motion by Mr. Garza, seconded by Mr. Canales. All in favor? Aye. All right. Let's moving on to item number 4, Staff reports?
We don't have anything. We have nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any item on communications that we need to present? Nothing on,
We have no items on communication.
all right. Then we'll jump down to item number 6, discussion and possible action of the following. We have the election of the following committee chairperson. For vice chair, we have Dave Akers is graciously said he'd accept that position. If we can have a motion to accept him as vice chair.
A motion?
A motion, second? A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have a position as secretary available. Anybody interested in position as secretary? Or wanna make any recommendations for anyone? Hearing none?
Would you like to be?
I'll have no problem. I'd be glad to serve as secretary.
I'll motion that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that'll work. Going on to item number 2, designation of no parking anytime on Everton Drive between Earth Haven Drive and Cielito Lindo Boulevard. And do we have any communication from council on that? For staff?
Yes, so, up here on the screen, we're gonna zero in on LBJ High School off of Cielito Lindo. This situation was brought to our attention by Laredo Police Department, resulting, from this parking, this is student parking on Cielito Lindo and down this roadway, Everton. And El Metro specifically is having, trouble with this, having issues, negotiating, turns and maneuvering through this road. They even have a bus, shelter pickup area that they've identified, well, not in this image, but they do have a bus stop here, and all this parking, student parking is interfering with the bus operations and their larger bus, so they asked us to take a look at it. Cielito Lindo is not built out to its full section. Here you can see that it narrows down from its typical 5-lane, 65-foot back-to-back. And I imagine that this won't get built out until the development occurs on the north side of this roadway. So we're proposing no parking on both sides of the roadway, just south of the residential properties. This will be a no parking anytime tollway zone. And so we're doing this to clear the roadway, make it safe, for buses maneuvering in and out of this area. So I'll open it up for
That's
any
off the school?
questions.
All, those are kids parking there?
These are
I
students.
saw them there.
Yes, these are, and we can
And
see
some
them.
are, they park on the land also, all that, they're to
Right.
the left.
They'll park in here. We have a lot of photos. I don't have them available, but the police department provide a lot of photos of the students
Yeah, they're all
parking
over
in
the
and
place.
around the area,
They're
yes.
on top of the grass and they
And,
want it.
and again, they're not allowed on the campus, because of the policies that they have, liability due to,
Driver's license.
driver's
Insurance.
license and insurance.
We keep going to the same problem, and I think the city should talk to the school district and find a permanent solution to this, because they have the same liability. Those kids are not supposed to park there, and if there's an accident, we're gonna go back to the same thing.
I'll mention that we were fortunate with LISD. The board members, realized this issue and this situation around the Nixon High School campus, and so they made an exception to allow all students in onto the campus to clear out the neighborhood. But that's LISD. UISD has not come to the same agreement.
Have we tried?
Many times. Many times.
So all those kids don't have insurance, that's why
They,
they're out
they either, or they choose not to enter the campus.
Not to pay whatever
No,
the school charges for.
Tienen que pagar, paga uno, everybody has to pay.
If there was the only way kids could get to school without using their cars,
We had scooters.
there we go.
Yeah.
There it is.
But this is a typical occurrence. We have complaints today. Had some calls for, let me find Monclova. So, same thing here. Students this is United South.
Los presidentes.
United South High School, Monclova, and I can't see this street.
Mexico.
So these are all students, and they'll park along this roadway here. This is the back end of those lots, so they're not really interfering with a lot of these other residents here. It's when they start parking in front of the residents and their driveways where we hear about it. So we received a complaint as far as over here, this area. So students have got all the way up this far north on Monclova, creating issues, blocking driveways, what have you. Mailboxes, we've heard it all. Garbage collection, branch pickup,
Right.
so.
Same problem, no insurance.
Same situation, all high schools, even North Laredo, the high school here, we've got students parking up, what is that called, Calma?
Calma.
So they park up against the edge right there, they don't create a problem for the residents. But even the ninth grade campus, we've got kids driving to school and they'll park right here on this dead end.
And
They'll
walk.
park over here, United Avenue, all the way into the dead end. And the police are actively patrolling the whole area. We've noticed them over here in this empty lot as well, they park up there.
It was embarrassing.
And we've done a lot of work out here, implementing school zones, speed limit signs, even all-way stops, and, trying to assist them, with the Laredo Police Department and the patrolling, calming traffic. We have an elementary school here, so, it's been very busy out there, but it's always the same with every high school.
Mr. Aker, do you have anything to add? Or what are the wishes of this commission regarding the request of the designation of parking?
No, nothing to add. It appears reasonable. I am looking at the graphic on Google Maps right now, so I've been following along.
Can I get a motion to support or
I support,
deny? Okay,
motion to support.
motion to support the placement of no parking anytime on Everton between Earth Haven and Cerrito Lindo Boulevard has been made. Do I have a second? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Got item number 3, designation of a no parking anytime on Riverbank Drive between World Trade Bridge and Escalado Drive, approximately 2,700 feet.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, this is out northwest Laredo, Mines Road, Bridge 4, World Trade Bridge, a mix of industrial, residential. This one is a little more intensive. We received a request to look at the no parking on Riverbank between Loop 20, frontage road, all the way to, guess it'd be Mescalero, where the residential, property line begins, so this industrial area between the residential and Loop 20 has always experienced a lot of high volume truck and parking on the roadway. And so we have police out there patrolling and making sure everything is safe. There's a perception or a cause for safety concern when we have trucks parked on both sides of the road and we have this narrow width in between. This is a 44, 48 foot back-to-back roadway, industrial street. And so trucks typically queue up on this road to get into the warehouse district all along here, and they've been doing it for quite a while. If we go down the street view, we'll typically see some trucks parked on the roadway, and we've been visiting this site frequently. We've been back and forth with here. We even have some existing no parking signs that were creating immediate safety concerns with sight distance that we've addressed. But because of the, I guess, increase in development and warehousing in this area, the truck traffic has increased, and it's just been very busy, and we're getting a lot of feedback from Laredo Police Department and the city council member to look at this. So we are recommending, let's see what I got here. It's one photo where one of the businesses has taken an initiative to paint the curb red to clear out the parking here. This is the police patrolling the area. They've got cones out.
They got a bunch of oil, looks like they've been parking there
They've
for a
been
while.
they
Looks like they're leaving the trucks there. Is that what they're doing?
well, they stage the vehicles there.
There's a tractor, there are some tractors there by
Yeah,
themselves.
when
without a
they,
box.
when they, when
go
they don't
home,
make it, when they don't make it across, that
they-
it's, 11:30 at night, they know they're not gonna make it across.
They park it
They
there.
need to find someone, somewhere to
They
leave it,
park
so
it and go
they're,
home.
that's what I think it's going on.
They do it in other areas too. They take their trucks and trailers,
It's gonna get worse.
park wherever they're.
So typically, there's two ways we go about this, is that we'll strike the roadway, because it'll provide the width for 3 lanes, 3 wide lanes, 3 wide 15-foot lanes. And we could stripe a center lane, which would leave the outside lanes for through movements, which would be illegal for any vehicle, would not provide parking for any vehicle, be illegal for them to park in that through lane. But what would happen is that, and what we've seen in our experience, is that they'll end up queuing in the turn lane. And so, one way or another, they end up back on the roadway. So what we're proposing is just no parking along the entire 3,000, what is it? So approximately 3,000 feet of roadway, both sides. And so it's gonna be a lot of signs. We space these signs out 80 feet apart and make sure we don't get complaints that they're oblivious to the fact there's signs out there. And so it's a lot of signs, and it'll be a no parking tollway area. And what's gonna happen is that they're just gonna move off somewhere else in this industrial area. They can't get into the residential. They're forbidden. These trucks actually should be there, but they can't be parking in the travel lanes anywhere on this 5-lane road, and they can't be in the residential area. But they will end up somewhere else.
And Logistic Drive is just too narrow for them to wanna go in there.
They're already parking on
Already.
Logistic Drive, and it's probably the same width. It's because all these industrial streets are the same width. It's a 51 on a 70-foot right of way.
So if I could weigh in for a second, as long as I'm not stepping on someone else's input, can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
So I first of all like to admit a bias, because I work in the trucking industry and this is a trucking challenge. So please be aware of that. I will speak today in the context of being a member of this committee. But the challenge that exists from the truck driver's perspective, or from the trucking company's perspective, is that when a truck goes in to either deliver or pick up, there's an appointment for that. And many times what will happen is the driver will check in for you to be either received or to be loaded. And the reason that waiting happens is generally, in the case of larger companies like the company that I work for, our trailers we call it direct trailer service. Our trailer will cross into Mexico, but for smaller profile carriers, their trailer is either being loaded right then, they come in empty and the trailer is loaded, or they come in to get unloaded at that time. And what creates the wait is that there's a Mexican trailer that's the counterpart to the U.S. side service. So if the inbound truck that's coming into Laredo to deliver, it's not intended for that load to unload into a warehouse, but rather directly transload into the Mexican carrier's trailer. That U.S. truck is waiting for that trailer to arrive before they can finish that service. These businesses instruct the drivers, please wait outside. I don't have room inside my facility for you to park. I only have space for my operation, for the movement of the trailers that are currently being transloaded. And so you're instructed to wait outside. So the trucking company will go check in. I'm here. Okay, acknowledge. Give me your cell number. I'll call you when it's time for you to come in. Just wait outside. And that's very free. We'll see that be the case in this street, in the NAFTA proposal, and in the other proposal. All three basically have the same aspects and characteristics. So that's what's happening. It's the trucks not being able to be received inside the facilities of these warehouses. They're asked to wait outside and be received as it's time to conduct the service. So they're just, they're at, please go wait outside. The challenge is, where do they go? That's really the problem, is because you're talking about, on a daily basis, hundreds of tractor trailer combinations. And it's only, the point was made very well, that it's only going to push the congestion into the streets surrounding this no parking area. So we would want to, as the discussion continues on the no parking or no on these streets, I would encourage the committee to consider it's just going to take that same traffic and push it to somewhere else that the driver will look to park in the meantime. The driver won't want to get very far away from that location because they're waiting to be called in to process their service. And so in other words, most likely they wouldn't go all the way back out to mile 13 and pull into a truck stop and wait there. They would look for a spot nearby. So I think it's conceivable that we would have a subsequent conversation about a different street name where parking is a problem, because it's just that's kind of the challenge that Laredo has. There's a lot of warehouse space, but inside of those warehouse companies and cross docks and customs brokerages and those operations, there's not waiting space inside the facility. It's outside of the waiting. And I won't mention names, but I see a couple of operations that I'm very familiar with in this overhead, as well as in the other overhead, where that I know for a fact that that's the operation at those locations.
I have to agree with you, David. This is Rafael. I see a lot of companies there that have a lot of movement, and we can see them from right here. I mean, it's just a lot of traffic, and you're absolutely right. There's two scenarios. One, the one that we mentioned at the beginning, which are trucks that are not able to go back, and sometimes they leave their trucks, just a truck, the power itself, parked there. But then there's a second scenario that you just rightfully mentioned, which is just the day-to-day operation. It happens every single day. We have to make appointments, we have to show up, and the driver has to wait until they tell him to come on in and get unloaded or get loaded. So that's the reality of the day-to-day business.
Would it be an alternative to consider closing one side of the street to allow that operations to still occur, but still allow the free flow of movement of vehicles through that Riverbank Road area? Is that something that traffic has possibly looked at as a kind of balance to it?
Yeah, we can restrict parking on one side of the road and still, and provide that two-way traffic, and alleviate any safety concerns, from having, parking on both sides
I
of the
think
road.
it probably behoove us to look at that as a first option, to go in to allow them to consider one side of the road. Let's see how it functions, because if we completely take them off of the entire road, it's just, everybody knows it's gonna put them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's gonna create another problem, and then we're gonna have to deal with that problem. So maybe we can try to address it by saying, I guess, the south side or you know, of the Riverbank Road, the whole length along the south side, let's say no parking there, and see how they function working on one side of the road. Just as a, to watch it, to see how it works.
Well, for that, you would probably need to, if you wanted to do that, you would probably need to restrict certain parts, or at least do not restrict the parts right next to those businesses, to where those truck drivers can still wait outside. And maybe restrict parts where there are no warehouses, and just, you know.
There's plenty of room, we're talking about over a mile distance there.
Okay.
The
I'm just saying on one side or the other, but leave one side completely open for
There's,
parking.
yeah, well, that could be a good solution, but if you have a truck going
Oh,
into
this way.
one business on the other side of the street, he's gonna have a problem, pulling in, because he's gonna have to turn around, park, and then maybe see if he can go into that business. What I see, you know, and I have the same problem, and I think, you know, we all have the same problem. I'm on Jefferson, and, you know, at least 2-3 days a week, it gets a little bit crazy, and then we just don't get the trucks, we get the railroad, and that's when things get a little bit messy. But, you know, we manage, and we find a way to work it out with the drivers. What I think, you know,
So
What
basically what
worries-
you're saying is maybe everything, from the picture, from Logistics Drive all the way down, we could block out the south portion of the road, but then leave, and block off the north portion of the road on the other side of Logistics, so to allow the traffic to be able to go into that warehouse maybe, yeah.
I think I understood, maybe staggering it, so we don't have them
Right.
side to side.
That's what he's
So
saying.
that we have them
That's-
allowed,
That's right.
parking. both
That's what
directions.
I'm looking at, going
Stagger.
north side of the road, south side of the road,
Yeah.
but stagger it for the operations of the business, but still be able to maintain the traffic
Right.
flow.
and just keep them off the residential side.
Right.
And maybe, I don't know if those signs are available. What worried me, and, you know, that's another thing for discussion, is the trucks that are left there overnight.
I
Those,
are the ones.
I
that-
think they're gonna move, because now Customs just closed Bridge 4 for pedestrian traffic.
Right.
So I don't know where they're gonna leave those trucks, plus they just created another problem under an emergency, whatever they call it, and,
Could you also do a balance of no parking and then 1 hour parking or something like that? Does
well,
that-
here's the thing, Jeff, before,
Yeah,
whether it was Bridge 4 or whatever, or Bridge 2 or 1, before they were leaving those trucks on the parking lot where the new outlet mall is. But then a few years ago, the city decided to charge a bunch of money, and they have no place to leave those trucks. And, you know, by 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, most businesses are closed, so the guys don't have a place to leave their tractor. So that, you know, next day they can walk across the bridge, pick up their tractor, and go to wherever is their first trip, whether, well, in this case, going south. And this has been happening in certain parts of Laredo, but the problem is that they have no place to leave them.
so the best option would be to try to sprinkle them throughout the industrial areas as opposed to try to focus them just, because right now they're double parking on Riverbank, and that's creating that narrow margin. So if we can move, you know, one side and the other, I mean, I don't like to take things out any longer than they need to be done, but maybe this is an agenda that maybe you guys can come back with an option for, one side, other side, alternate, based on the business operations, that, might be a little bit more than just blocking everything, cause it's just gonna move them somewhere else,
Right, you're right.
and create
Well,
a
you
problem
know,
somewhere else.
We have the same problem as, you know, everybody else in Laredo. There's no parking.
Yeah.
Space for basically nothing. So that's, you know, that's the problem. And with the volume of cargo that we move through Laredo, is, you know, it's just basically impossible to come up with a solution to where everybody's gonna be happy.
No, that's true.
And, you know,
So, but I mean, I'm not in favor of putting both sides signs personally, cause it's just gonna throw everything to Logistics Drive, and then that's gonna become the problem. And, you know, but coming up with one side of the street and giving them the opportunity to still park on another, and alternating some kind of, to where it functions, I'd like to see if that plan might work. And then we can look at it maybe for future areas, if kind of like a pilot, kind of to see how it works in this area. I don't know, but I'd recommend that we ask,
Like table the motion.
table it for now and have y'all look at an alternate routes and come back to us.
Very well.
Okay, do I have a motion to table? Yes, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you. On to the next item, number 4 is designation of no parking anytime, on NAFTA Boulevard between McPherson Road and Grand Central Boulevard.
I don't probably do the same kind of problem.
Mr. Chairman, this one is somewhat related. We received a complaint, concern from I guess an employee from the business on the corner of NAFTA and McPherson, and she submitted these photos. So they're having difficult maneuvering in and out of their driveway. You can see that this driveway entrance is somewhat blocked. They're having issues with a mailbox. And, but
I'm sorry, who was the origin of the complaint?
let me get you the name of the business. This is L&M Forwarding at the intersection on the northwest corner of NAFTA and McPherson. And so you can see the trucks parked in the aerial image as well. Their driveway entrance is over here, the mailbox is over here. They also have an exit on the east side of the building, on the west side of the building. And so,
They can't get out.
yeah.
Miguel,
Yo creo que sí, ¿verdad?
So we even have an unhitched trailer in one of the photos.
Yeah,
And
that's a no-no.
so this is basically what minimize, no parking at the entrance, just to clear visibility up and down the roadway as well as at the exit. So minimum impact to the road. So it'll clear the mailbox and visibility for their entrance on the east, and it'll clear visibility
Their
for the
entrance
exit
and exit.
on the west.
That's
Fair enough.
reasonable. That sounds reasonable.
Fair enough for me.
Any other questions or for staff on this one?
I think I just cautioned the designation of no parking reads between McPherson and Grand Central. That's that entire stretch. That's not just on the corner.
So the motion that we would have to make would be, the exhibit as presented with the 80 feet and 80 feet and 120 feet along NAFTA Boulevard. To correct that, I agree with you, Mr. Akers, on that. Do I have a motion to support or
I motion to support.
support and in favor of, putting no parking, 120 feet, I guess would be east of their entrance and 80 feet either side of their main entry to their parking lot. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item number 5, a designation of a no parking anytime on the 14400 block of Investment Avenue.
Okay, another similar situation. Northwest Laredo Industrial Park of International Trade Center. And so this is off of Mines Road, Trade Center Boulevard and Investment Avenue, all the way towards the end of the roadway, the dead end, backs up to Muller Elementary School. It does not have access or connectivity, but so here in the aerial, you see you get a very good idea of what's happening there. We have trucks parking at the dead end, and all along this roadway. So the business owner, on the west side contacted, says this is a constant, recurring situation. You have to get police out there to control this. So almost in every image and photo that we're looking at, these trucks are there, disturbing operations of the facility. So we're just.
What they wanna do, put some no parking signs?
There's more no parking. So we're gonna do the barricade at the end of the roadway, which we should have already. I can't tell that it's there with the trucks parked there, but we're gonna put the barricade in, type 3 typical, required by subdivision ordinance, and then we're gonna put in the no parking up to 150 feet down the road to clear the area. And that's,
That would be
What are the
fine.
wishes of the commission?
I wish that, yeah, I agree with it.
We have a motion to support
I
no
second.
parking at the end of the block as depicted.
I second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That includes all the action items. We have item number 7 is the discussion of possible recommendation. There's nothing there, so any other items that need to be discussed?
No, I just printed out the attendance record, just so you all can have an idea of how we're doing with our attendance. That's from Mr. Travis. I know some of you are just joining their groups.
Anything I wanna view, I can just, for next time, I can let you all know. If I wanna address
Oh, he
something,
wants to bring,
I wanna bring up,
Okay.
going on Loop 20 south to north. The entrance, the second entrance before TAMU, there's 2 entrances. Going south to north.
What would you like to discuss on that?
The new entrance that they made does not have a shoulder, so when we're gonna turn in, you have to almost come to a complete stop to turn to the right, and the traffic is coming for you, so that is a safety issue. I wanna see what you guys think. But I noticed that the other day that they were turning, and it was not just one person, there was 4 or 5 people. So everybody has to stop there, and they're trying to come around to the left, and it's gonna cause an accident. There's a bike area there, but it would have to be moved, so it's a bike area. But if you're going into TAMU, which are all the kids or the teachers, in the new one that they made recently, it does not have a turning lane. If you all wanna take a drive and look at it for yourself.
It's a state,
yeah, it's a state roadway.
is there
State.
somebody from the state that we might be able to call upon to
Sure.
give us some input on it?
Sure, we could bring somebody in. And I understand what this is. I mean, we don't have decel lanes at a lot of the intersections, Del Mar, Lakeside, and all the other driveways along
They have
the side.
But they have a light there
Well,
on Lakeside.
okay, we have.
This one does
right,
not have a light,
Right,
so they're not gonna stop.
right. We also have a new subdivision over here, the loop. Same complaint, same concern.
Okay.
And they recognize this initially with the driveway universally because of the high volumes of turning movement and what the traffic that is generating at certain peak periods. So I know that they probably have something on the books
No.
for that because it doesn't work as is.
I noticed that, and then,
If you just go ahead and put it as an item, agenda item, it's an agenda item, and maybe call someone from the state if they could, maybe just give us a little bit of
some
update.
information on that. And I have a second thing if I can. On Park Street, Park, going to 35, there's like 4 or 5 lights there. They're, some are not, sometimes they're synchronized, sometimes they're not. But, I don't know, we need all 4 lights. I don't know if you've checked it before. Maybe we can eliminate 2 of them instead of all, every street, and they're really not main streets coming out.
The council member recently brought this to our attention, we lost communication to those signals, so we established it as recently as last week. And if they, without communication, they drift and they run out of, they get out of synchronization, right, so.
I guess what he wants to know probably is,
Right.
is there enough volume coming
The
from the
warrant-
side streets to warrant the
Yes,
signal?
yes, sir. Mhm.
Yeah,
And-
probably
and
not.
could
And I don't see a
could
lot
we-
of traffic coming
Right,
from them, really.
Right, the warrants for the signals are, different situation, but because of the age and the amount of time that they've been there, it's very difficult in our experience.
To remove.
The signal anywhere.
But you did have maybe 2 of them out of 4, just to
Right.
get them, like the one coming down from Clark, that's good to have because you slow them down.
Right, the
And then maybe
council,
have one on San Francisco and then the one on the highway.
council member had the same conversation with
See?
us recently, yes.
Which council member was it?
This is,
You can ask. Mr. Torres.
Martinez,
No.
Well, let's just get some kind of update. I mean, I know that you mentioned that it's hard to remove
right.
signals that have been there for some length of time, but maybe just look at some alternatives.
Partial.
I mean, I know that they're supposed to be timed and the delays and so forth. Maybe something else could be looked at.
Well,
But
all right.
go ahead and add that on to the
Thank you all
agenda,
very
item,
much
just
for
for
looking at
discussion.
that. You all wanna drive by and look at it? You can see what I'm saying.
We
See
can,
what you all
Not
think.
often, but
we can kind of
See what you
mill
all
it around
think.
at our next meeting.
Kick it around.
Sure.
Mhm.
Any other items that may need to be considered for next meeting? If I hear none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right, we adjourn.